What's up YouTube, this is Demkeys and today we're going to take a look at sorting layers. Sorting layers are used in conjunction with sprite graphics in the 2D system. The sorting refers to the overlay order of different sprites. If this seems a little confusing right now, don't worry about it, just follow along with the tutorial and eventually you'll get it. So let's begin. First of all, we need to create our own sprite. So right click in the project panel, create, sprites, square. Name the sprite whatever you want. Drag and drop the sprite into the hierarchy twice. So we now have two sprites in the scene. Select one sprite and change its color to red and the other to blue. Change the size and shape of these sprites so that we can differentiate between them. Now currently the scene is in 2D mode. Switch it to 3D mode by pressing the number 2 key on your keyboard or clicking this 2D button. As you can see, both our sprites are positioned in front of the camera, which is why the camera is able to see them. And both of the sprites have the same position on the Z-axis. One problem with this is that, for example, if I move the red sprite around the blue sprite, you'll notice it keeps switching between back and front. It's shown sometimes in front of the blue sprite and sometimes at the back. One solution to this problem is having both the sprites on different positions on the Z-axis. So as you can see, currently I've changed the red sprite's position on the Z-axis and it is now positioned behind the blue sprite, and even the camera sees it in that way. I can also bring the red sprite in front of the blue sprite and the camera would see it in that way. However, if you don't want to change the position on the Z-axis for any of the sprites, then you can use sorting layers. Now currently you can see that the red sprite is shown in front of the blue sprite. If I select the red sprite and under the sprite renderer component, if I change the order in layer from 0 to -1, you can see it's now rendered behind the blue sprite. Both of our sprites currently have their sorting layer set to default, which means we can change their order in that layer. So the blue sprite's order in layer is set to 0 and the red sprite's order in layer is set to -1, which is why the red sprite is being rendered behind the blue sprite. If I change it to 1, it's now being rendered in front of the blue sprite. If I select the blue sprite and change the order in layer to 2, the blue sprite is now being rendered in front of the red sprite. If you select both of these sprites and check their position on the Z-axis, you'll notice it is still 0. Yet, we are able to control which sprite is rendered in front and which is rendered at the back. Now here's something interesting. I'm going to select the blue sprite and change its position so it is behind the red sprite, or at least it looks like it is behind the red sprite. However, when we look at it from sort of a front view, the blue sprite is still rendered in front of the red sprite. The same thing goes for 2D mode. The blue sprite is still rendered in front of the red sprite. This is because of the order in layer that we have set. If we change the blue sprite's order in layer to 0, it is now going to be rendered behind the red sprite. Change the blue sprite's order in layer back to 2 and change the position on the Z-axis to 0. And now let's take a look at sorting layers. So to add a sorting layer, you can either click sorting layer, add sorting layer, or you can click edit, project settings, tags and layers, and you'll have the same tags and layers settings. Now next to your console panel, create an inspector. Make sure the tags and layers settings are shown in that inspector and then lock that inspector. So the tags and layers settings will now be shown over here at all times. So as you can see, currently we only have one sorting layer, which is the default sorting layer. We can add or remove our own sorting layers as well. Click the plus icon to add a new layer. We'll name this LS1. The name really does not matter. It's the order of the layers that matters. We'll get into that a little later. Create another layer, call it LS2. Now select the blue sprite and change its sorting layer to LS1 and click the red sprite and change its sorting layer to LS2. You'll notice as soon as I changed the red sprite's sorting layer to LS2, it came in front of the blue sprite. Some of you might get confused by this because the order in layer for the blue sprite is still set to 2 and the order in layer for the red sprite is still set to 1. So let me explain this to you. We have assigned both of these sprites different sorting layers. So the order in layer is not really going to be taken into account right now. Now instead, the order of these layers in the sorting layers list is going to be taken into account. Let me explain what I mean by that. As you can see, currently in our sorting layers list, the default layer is at the top, which means that any sprite that is assigned the default sorting layer will be rendered at the back. And then any sprite that is assigned the LS1 sorting layer will be rendered in front of that sprite. And then any sprite that is assigned the LS2 sorting layer will be rendered in front of the sprite that was assigned the LS1 sorting layer. That is why our red sprite is being shown in front of the blue sprite, because the red sprite has been assigned the LS2 sorting layer and the blue sprite has been assigned the LS1 sorting layer. Now, as I mentioned earlier, since both of these sprites have been assigned different sorting layers, order in layer does not matter over here. What matters is the order of the layer in the sorting layers list. What this means is that you can actually change the order of these layers. You can drag these layers anywhere within the list and set whatever order you want. So notice as I'm changing the order of the layers, the order changes over here as well. You'll see the same effect if you are in 2D mode. And this is also how the game camera is going to see the sprites. So yeah, that's it. So I hope this tutorial was helpful. If you would like to watch more tutorials, you can click in the top left corner of the screen, and in the top right is a link to my music channel where I post music that I make in my free time. In the bottom left corner you have a preview for a small game that I made. The links for the project and the game build are in the description down below. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Leave your comments below, and I'll see you guys next time.